Hey everybody, how's it going? So today it is Justin Armenta from JA Digitizing Studios, Jerry Lee Medeiros from Sunfacer NFT, who's distracting me and I can't focus, and me, Jeff Fuller from Fuller Embroidery Works. And today we are all not in the same room, as you can tell, broadcasting live from the Embroidery Nerd. Let's go ahead and we have somebody watching with us. We have Shania watching from California, who is sewing today. That's perfectly all right.
Great. Awesome.
And we have Teresa here from Las Vegas. And
Hey,
just so you guys know, there is about an 8-second lag from when we talk to you type. So if we don't pull it up right away, that is why. We definitely want to get everybody that we can in the comments brought up for that. But today we are talking about, I can't read the whole thing. What are we talking about today, Jerry Lee?
we're talking about what to consider when buying a machine or software, or when you have one. It's not just going to be limited to if you've already done it and you think you're not going to find anything in this broadcast, because that's not the case. It's about what you want to look at when you are getting into this business. I mean, here's why this subject came up. Is for me, I don't know about you guys, and you'll share your experience, I'm sure, but for me, when I got in, I had started with Husqvarna home machines, actually. Then I started buying magazines that were from the professional industry, because what I was doing was really difficult. It was like it took me 3 days to create a logo for the Rotary Club that I did not, no copyright infringement. I knew nothing. Okay, but it took 3 days to do it in this software, in this home software, and it had a seam in the design. So then I had to figure out where to put that. So then to get it on the caps, because I didn't know how to do that either, I actually took all the bills off the caps. Okay. And so then I was up for 24 straight hours. All right. It was not good. But I sewed so to be efficient, this is when I learned that caps are kind of made individually. But to be efficient, I had taken all the bills off of all the caps and thrown them into a paper bag. Well, no. Every 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 cap has been serged or cut or trimmed and then stitched at the same time to that particular cap. So
as somebody who sews hats, I can attest to that.
Yes.
Very fact. Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know this until I was down to the last few caps, because they were going pretty okay. Some seemed kind of maybe not okay, but hey. And so again, I didn't know I was copyright trademark infringing. I'm doing this on a little Husqvarna, is not made to do it, and I have no clue what I'm doing. And so I have this really giant thing that looks like really ugly that I'm going to stitch on these things. But of course, I have to take them apart because I can't figure out how to put it on. And they've already ordered them. And they're wearing them at tomorrow's at the Sun River, Oregon, up above Bend, Oregon, only Richville. Okay, I can get a big job from this job, right? No. Anyway, for their chili cook-off, the yearly annual chili cook-off. So I stayed up for 24 hours. This is why we get into where we're going. So I stayed up for 24 hours straight, and I sewed all those things on, and I tumbled into bed after delivering them in the middle of the morning, and the sun's coming up on the porches of these people that were going to wear them to the freaking cook-off. And finally, after I rolled out of bed about 3, I stumbled on down to the event. They were so proud. Oh my God, they were so proud. And the proudest one was the person standing there in the hat, where literally the logo, which is again mangled, okay, and with a line through the bottom, like, and stapled or something, because it's home software. I didn't know you could make a hole, I didn't know. Anyway, very thick also. But anyway, with that thing on, and the bill is over here, pointing that way. They were the proudest person ever. They were like talking to people and getting their picture taken and saying who I was. And I was like, I'm never going to embroider again. So after
And
that,
here you are.
I bought a commercial machine, but I didn't know what to do. So after that event, I sent away one of those little cards that you send away. And the only person, now this is something you need to pay attention to. The only person who called me back and the reason that they got my business, because I didn't know squat, let's remember, was Hirsch. I got a call. I didn't get a call. I got a big folder that was like folded in half and then, with a trifold. So, like not tri, but all the way. But then they had this embroidered H on there that was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I ran my hand over that so many times and they had put glue on it like rubber cement so it put the two together. They had my business right then and there. I was ready to lay down whatever it took, whatever did that I wanted. I didn't know anything about brands. I didn't know about software. I didn't know anything. That's why we're here, is because I don't know what your experience was, Jeff. I lucked into really top of the line software and really top of the line machine. Okay, I got lucky. It was pure luck. So, how did you guys do it?
Well, I did not get lucky. I wish. I'm going to grab a couple comments here, though. We have Bevy Jean. Good evening.
Hey,
We have Amy, who is here just to make me nervous, I promise. We have Carol, hi, from Minnesota. Mandy from Idaho. She's up in your neck of the woods, Jerry Lee.
we're in Idaho. Oh, sorry.
And Prem says, I wanted variegated thread, but Knoll didn't carry. I gradually studying from this group. Good job.
Awesome.
Marlena, hello. So I had very much the not so similar experience. So I wanted to do patches. And of course, everybody says, you need an embroidery machine, right? Embroidered patches. I'm going to do this. So I found a website that had an embroidery machine that was for sale. And I called in and I said, hello, how are you? I want to buy, this is what I want to do. And the salesman said, okay, well, you need this machine. There goes a couple thousand. And you need this software. There goes a couple thousand more. I said, all right, and this is everything I need. He said, yep. So I bought that machine and I bought that software. And well, needless to say, the software didn't do what I wanted it to do. It did not work very well. I struggled with it a lot. And so I contacted the manufacturer of the software and they said, oh, you're having the problems that all the new users do. It's because you're on one version back. You need to upgrade to the latest and greatest version of that. So we'll take a couple $1,000 for that, please. And so I dropped another couple of $1,000, upgraded to the latest and greatest. And lo and behold, it was not it was not that my software couldn't do it. It was the software just couldn't do it, period. So I went from there and I reached out to somebody and they gave me some advice and I ended up purchasing another piece of software for another couple $1,000. And finally, after I got very, very tired of this, I actually talked to Louise and he said, you should get Wilcom Hatch because it's the best bang for the buck. And so I ended up dropping money on that one. And then slowly after that, I ended up buying yet another software, Wilcom E4.5.
How many do you have now?
Way too many. So anyways, with machines, I ended up, I bought, of course, their machine. It was a flatbed home machine. I went to a tubular machine and it just wasn't doing everything that I needed it to do. Nothing really wrong with it. And then I went to the Happy that you guys see behind me. And I'm currently looking at machines again because I love to look and shop. But mainly, I think it's just because my bank account needs to stay at zero or else there's a problem. But that is my super long, very part of the thing today that I think this makes it such a good topic is if we can save you guys from making the mistakes that I made.
I made some, but not like I made different.
Yeah, I mean, I would have made a lot of different choices had I known now what I knew then, and I would have asked a lot more questions. So we actually have a question here that I'm going to bring up because it is very relevant. It is, what is a tubular machine? So a tubular machine is a tubular arm that comes out singular, like most of the industrial machines. So you have your sewing arm that comes out, that's considered the tube, and then you put your bobbin into that, and you can put cylindrical items around it. On a flatbed home machine, that's very much like, the sewing machines that you see at, well, everywhere, I guess. They have that nice flatbed. You can't do structured caps on them. So that, when I say tubular machine, I mean one like that.
Well, might I interject here also? There are also specific commercial embroidery machines that never were able to transition to tubular, and so some people still have those. And you can't do a hat, you can't do a lot of things. Anything that has any kind of a curvature, you can only do flat. So
I
they're
mean, didn't they sell those originally as monogram machines? Like they marketed them as monogram machines?
I think they did the EP1. Justin, you might know this, but the EP1, didn't they do that? It was a Melco, and they're still out there, but they're one needles, and they're still workhorses. But did you ever hear those? The Melco EP1?
No, I haven't seen that.
Well, but because of my history of being in the service tech end of this, I saw a lot of stuff like that was like one needle, but those suckers still went.
Remember the ad I sent you for that single needle Tajima?
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I think we're talking about. And I know Justin's seen it too, because I'm pretty sure I sent it to him too. Because I was looking at him like, that's not really a Tajima. It can't be.
You were going to go buy that sucker. I remember that.
I should have, just because then I could have had it here and I could have moved the camera to it and said embroidery history and then went on from there. But let's see here. Mandy says that she is in.
Oh, Buell. Oh, okay.
There you go. Jerry Lee knows where that is.
Yeah, I do. Coeur d'Alene. I'm not so far.
And we have Prem. Before I purchase things, I asked Chef first. I know. I'm glad that you reach out, and definitely you're doing your research, which is very important.
Yeah, research is
and
important.
Chris, hey, we can see Jerry Lee today without the sun blocking her.
Hi.
We'll throw something at him later. No, I'm just kidding. And special guest, we have Letty.
Woo! Hey, where's that jacket?
And Chris, hey, we can see Jerry Lee today without the sun blocking her.
Hi.
We'll throw something at him
later. Hi, Letty.
And special guest. Letty, I think you've got the window open, like you're playing it on Facebook.
Letty?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Hey, sweet.
All right, so those are the mistakes that I made. Justin, how many mistakes did you make? I know you came kind of right into the commercial end of it.
Yeah, I got kind of thrown into the deep end right away. I started working at an embroidery company that had multiple machines, multiple heads. I think when I first started there, they had a Melco 6-head, a couple of Melco single heads, and a really old Tajima 6-head. From there, that company kind of went along and got the newer Tajimas. So that's pretty much has been my career, is working on Tajimas other than the old Melcos. The new company that I manage as well, it's all Tajimas. So I've never had experience, trying to look for a machine or research a machine. I just kind of learned about them once I, started working for these companies. But fortunately, I haven't had to go through the growing pains of trying to find a machine myself. So,
well, since you have been in the industry for 27 years, and you have worked with those Tajimas, I want to reference that. Did you ever? I know that since you used to digitize with a board and a puck, and you did that 6-to-1 ratio in that. Did you ever Did somebody punch tapes, or was it like somehow digital by then, or were you?
It was still digital by then. I didn't actually punch 6-to-1. I would just draw. I would cartoon
but you did. There wasn't that ticker tape where if there was a mistake, you had to go find that piece. Okay, cool. Okay.
No, it was already digital by that point, but it was just it wasn't the on-screen digitizing.
But the 6-to-1 is really. I came in right after that, and I wish I'd have learned that. I feel at a disadvantage for not. So I guess I could, huh? Will I? Ooh.
All right. So that's your story. Or are you done yet? I want to make sure we give you an adequate allotment of time.
No, that's as far as a discussion on the machines. That's my story on the machines. Like I said, I've been fortunate that I've learned on really good machines. Didn't have that learning curve of trying to figure out myself. was, working for an established company, so
Oh,
I
that's
had
lovely.
that
Yeah.
benefit.
Did you have mentors or something? Was there somebody there like who had been there training you, or did you just kind of have to go figure it out?
The owner of the company is my cousin at the time.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
convenient.
so I moved to Tucson to go to college, and she hired me on to work there while I was in school, and I
Oh,
just
and look
started
at
with
that
that.
now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Letty, what's your experience, if you'd like to share?
She's
Maybe.
muted. She's muted somehow.
Yeah, she's. Oh, I could fix that button.
Yeah, I thought so. I was like,
Nope, she's muted herself. So
Uh,
there we go.
Let's see. I actually started on a little tiny. Are you there?
yeah.
Yep, we can
Are
hear
you?
you.
Oh, she's blurring her own face. Why?
Muted herself. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I started. Yeah, I started on a little. Yeah, I started on a little tiny tabletop. I did pillowcases and other stuff for people, and then it kind of grew. It grew to the point that I needed a bigger machine, and I ended up with a Viking MN 1000, and that didn't do everything I wanted it to do. So I turned around and bought a ZSK. And so
I bought
now I can do
my
everything I want.
nice.
Very nice. And Matt, let's hear your story.
Sir Matt.
Oh, which story?
Well, whatever the one that
How
you
you got into it, and what mistake, and how you went down the rabbit hole, because I'm pretty sure you went down the rabbit hole too.
Yeah, I went down the rabbit hole all body first. Let's see. So I knew I needed an embroidery machine to do embroidery. So step one, check. There's a local shop that does all the patches for our base. We first went there, just kind of peeked around the corner and like, oh, their brand is SWF. Like, okay, well, their brand and their patches come out looking like complete garbage, so I'm not going to get that. Doesn't matter. SWF isn't garbage. It's the stuff garbage in, garbage out. So I was like, well, I'm not getting an SWF. And then I realized how much embroidery machines cost. So I went to ye old Craigslist and found one for $1,900. That sad machine back there that's like, just terminate me. It works perfectly fine. $1,900. It was a broken, bad connector, fixed it. That thing made me well over $2,000 in the first month, and I don't know how much more the following months. And then I needed more production, so then I did a little bit more research. Not quite enough, and I bought another machine that's over there. It's pretty much a work table. Limped through the payments on that, and then my dog. And then I bought my butterfly, and that one I did a lot of research. And by that time, I mean that was last November, so
You're happy? Your butterfly?
yeah, I'm happy. I was pretty happy with that purchase. I got it. It's a four-head. I again got it off of Craigslist for I think like $5,800 or something. After I drove down to pick it up,
wow.
they couldn't turn it on. The fuses popped on it. I got it home, pushed the fuse in, fired right up.
How many heads is that, Matt? 4?
It's 4. Yep, 4 heads, 12 needles. I don't know how many patches I've done on it so far. Way more than what I did on the Racoma.
Amazing.
But yeah, I mean, I'm open to getting other machines. It's just
Those are working.
it's a lot of research that goes into it. Like it would be nice to have all one type of machine, so that way when I have like spare parts, they all work on the next machine, which they don't in this case. But
Well, in your case, you've been really fortunate in that you have the mechanical ability to
yeah,
go get a machine off of Craigslist and make that work. But what about the people who, like most of us, that have to that don't have that ability or that good fortune to be on Craigslist before you are? You
I
know,
mean, I certainly
in
wouldn't
your neck of
recommend
the
it.
woods from now on, you're getting good deals.
I wouldn't recommend buying a machine that you don't know much about. Even myself, like when I went down to get the Happy, and they're like, "Yeah, we can't turn it on." It's like I really don't want to get another broken machine. Um,
But
Why
I
is
do.
that to buy
but I was also like, I already drove down here. I got a trailer. I have like a couple grand in cash. Just cut them a little lower, see what it can do, and like, yeah, I brought it home and then pulled it into the garage, and the wife's like, "Does it work?" I'm like, "It will." Um,
Wow.
but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of frustration that went on. I know there's a lot of late nights trying to figure out what's going on, and like live chatting with Jeff, just bouncing ideas off, or Renee from TexMac, and or Jeff Armstrong for the other two machines that aren't the Happy, just trying to fix certain things. But it would be nice to have a machine that's in warranty, that's for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
one thing that I recommend that I want to get in here before I forget is that no matter what I found, the first thing I got really lucky. The sales rep that I was fortunate enough to get that folder from out of Seattle, they're not there anymore. But anyway, he said, "Hey, I have a customer who has this kind of machine, and if you want to come see it, then meet me." And so I did. I drove several hours and I went and watched it run. And that's one thing that when you're buying a new machine, I highly recommend. Hi, puppies. Seeing it run, watching the machine run. If you can't see your machine run, you want to see the machine brand run. The other thing that I recommend is to take a file. Now, most of us don't go equipped with that knowledge. I did not. I saw this forehead Tajima slamming them out, right? And I was like, all mine, let me write you a check. The guy said, "Oh, you don't have to give me that today." I followed him to his car to write the man a check for this. He wasn't leaving until I possessed a Tajima. I mean, it was like, because I saw the thing run, I saw the quality.
Hey,
Had I been smart, okay, or had known more, what I would have done is I would have um, taken a file, a design file of something or other that was of known quality to me of what it's going to run like, and ask them, like, before I go, what file format do you need it in? Oh, DST, okay, bring it in, and watch my or whatever design I supply run. I would like that. And so, since you're here, and if you haven't purchased one, or if you're going to purchase more, whatever, see the machine run is one of my highly recommended things, and take a design of your very own that you know runs well, and see what the stitch quality. In fact, have the one that you're comparing it to, if you have a comparison, take it so that you can compare the two to really see what it's at. Don't do it from memory.
Yep. And I mean, I'm going to add to that too. Even now, you can send a file to a machine manufacturer and you can have them virtually do it. I mean, we are still kind of COVID, everything's virtual. You can send them a file and say, "I want to see it run," and they should schedule a meeting with you, and they should go ahead and hoop up a hat and stick it on a machine and hit the start button. I would not. I mean, when I bought my first tubular machine, well, when I bought both my machines, I did it sight unseen. Like I'd never seen one run. I just, here's my money. I trust you to get me what I need. And I don't want to say I'm jaded, but I don't give out that kind of trust anymore. I definitely want to see it run. And I also want to look at, like, make sure I join the manufacturers groups. Every manufacturer has a closed group that you can go and you can kind of stick like a fly on the wall and you can watch and see what problems people are having, because people will post their problems. They will post their problems before they post their successes. They will always post their problems. That's how the internet works.
You want to watch for the manufacturer's response, because what are you looking for? When you buy a machine, you're not only buying the machine, you're buying the company that's selling you the machine. Are these people polite to you? Are they concerned about your product? Do they treat you as if you have a 12 head shop, even though you just got one? Because here's the deal. They don't know you. do they? No, they don't know who's standing in your shoes. They don't know your capability. Nobody can put a limit on you. Maybe you only might have a one head shop, big deal, but you might have one warehouse of 18 head machines and act like that's what you want, and people ought to treat you like that when they're selling you a machine. And then you need to make sure that they can service it. You want to make sure that the parts aren't breaking. But Jeff has steered me to groups for other things, and I learned very fast what not to get in certain other areas that I do in business by watching the comments. I was like, I'm out of here like a hot minute. That's bad news. That one. Bye bye. Not that one.
Yeah.
I know. And so, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think going, hearing a story like Matt, and luckily he's got the background to get these machines that have issues and are able to figure them out. But if you're new and you know nothing about embroidery machines, I understand that the price difference between getting something new and used is an exorbitant amount sometimes. But you got to remember, you're going to have the tech support on something brand new. You're going to have the warranty. You're going to have the techs that they have. Hopefully they have. And that's one thing that, like Jerry Lee just brought up. You need to ask the questions like, are techs available through the distributor? Where they're coming out of? Because sometimes the trip charge on techs, if they're coming from halfway across the country, that alone could be $400 or $500 on the trip charge.
$800 one company charges, and that's their standard fee from no matter where that is.
Right.
And it's a big name company.
One thing that I've noticed, and it may not be your make or break point on a machine that you're choosing, but just but over the years, knowing the local companies and knowing the machinery that's in town, and knowing the ones that have like Tajimas. If you do the little research of what's in town, and hopefully people will talk to you and not treat you as the competitor and trade secrets. But if you have somebody in town, or that there's the majority of the town that have Tajima and you're leaning towards Tajima, that they might have a part or accessories that they could let you borrow in a pinch. Sometimes you could talk to tech support, and if more than one person in town needs a tech, you can schedule it where you guys split the trip charge. It's things like that where kind of look at your local community as far as what's in your town or in your area. It might benefit you getting something that is similar to or the exact same as what's in your town.
Well, and to that level of quality that you're speaking of is like, even if it's not the same brand of machine, to move aside from trading parts and hoops and whatnots, if your machine goes down, you need to have community around you so that you can go to someone who also does high quality work. You don't want to go to just anybody. When and this goes back to, why do you want to see how the machine stitches out? Because your name is all over your shop. Nobody's going to say, well, they're really nice and they really know what they're doing, but that machine of theirs, oh, buddy, it really needs to be upgraded or whatever. Or, oh, it's used and yeah, it needs a tech call. They're not going to say that. They're going to say, oh my God, don't go there. Look at the quality. Can you believe that? So that's why when you're first getting something, make sure it hits your standard of quality. Okay, there's Neiman Marcus, Walmart. I'm not saying anything about anything. I'm just saying there's varieties of what people can pay, what people are willing to pay. There's those levels, and it's just the world. It's just how it is. It's just how it is. It's business. You got it all. So
I mean, ultimately, that sitting right back there, it's like buying a car. I mean, it costs about the same to you. I mean, it's literally like buying a car. When you go to a car lot and you talk to a salesman and you say, I want a car, they're going to assume that you've already done the research that brought you to that brought you to their lot. They're going to say, okay, you need an embroidery machine. You came to me, you've done your research. Not a lot of them are going to go, okay, well, let's talk about use case. I recently had a conversation with somebody that had a machine, and they wanted to add another one to increase their shop output. And they talked to a salesman, and the salesman said, oh, well, you definitely need a 2-head machine because you need 2 machines, right? And this person, they do monogramming. Like, one-off monogram is 99% of what their business is. So in their use case, it's better to have two single heads
Yeah.
than it is to have a single head and a double head, because ultimately with a double head, you do two of everything.
Right.
You cannot do two individual things. And so you have to kind of be, and I don't like saying this, but you got to be a little bit skeptical when they come out with their, their flyers and their, really you need to communicate to them really what you need that machine for, what you might be considering doing for it. And then after they give you that, you need to take their information. You need to go visit at least one other machine manufacturer. You would be amazed at the difference between, when it comes to embroidery machines, the difference between the cost of a Geo Metro and a Corvette.
And sometimes you don't know what you want, and sometimes them giving you information is great, but you also need to know where. You have to have some idea of where you're headed. You don't want to suddenly get pulled into, and I need a chenille machine, which is like totally awesome. But okay, you have to be aware of. You have to have some knowledge also. You can't expect someone to tell you what you need if you don't give them any idea of what you're trying to do. They're going to tell you everything that they think you might need. They're guessing. They don't know because they're not a mind reader. Help them out a little bit. Tell them, do you want to do shirts? Do you just like Pacific Headwear, for instance? For a while when they were ordering their machines, they were getting all the hoops, and finally they said, stop sending all the hoops. We only want cap drivers. That's it. They don't have any other kind of hoop in their warehouse of 18 head machines all the way down. There's just cap drivers. But that's because that's all they do. So if you know that's where you're headed, then help whoever's trying to help you to get to the point where you can be successful with the right products and the right tools.
Right. And if you are getting into something where, a niche where you're going to be doing a lot of hats and stuff like that, you got to talk to the manufacturers and the machine itself and see what your limitations are. I know some machines, rule of thumb, you have about 2.5 inches tall on a hat. There are some machines out there that I've learned that customers are telling me I have 2 inches to work with. And then there's some machines that can push it past 2.5 inches tall. So it's stuff like that where you got to really, really find out what machine is going to fit into what you're trying to do.
All right, I'm going to bring up a comment here because I really, really like this one. I don't think that Machine Brand should get a good or a bad rep. I've watched SWF users and all the problems they have had, and I am just crazy confused because I've really had no problems with either of mine except with hats. In fact, my older 9-needle SWF sells better than the newer 15-needle ones. So my experience as it is comes down to the individual machines sometimes.
And didn't we talk about this actually at some point when we were in Texas about, and I don't know, I think I remember it, but like where we were at, doesn't it kind of almost matter on what day of the week it was built? I think
it was built on overtime on a Friday, 5 minutes before they're out the door.
It's true. Jean is completely right. Sometimes it depends, or if it got bumped in shipping and something happened, or if somebody just was sloppy.
Yep.
We have one machine that's cold. It won't sew as well for whatever reason. The rest of the machines in the machine. We got to put a jacket or something on it. Every other machine in the same room runs perfectly fine, but when it gets cold, that one machine acts up.
Interestingly enough, Joseph, I saw one day he was commenting because he has 2 different brands of machines, and he said every time they make a file, they test it on both machines, and they run the production on the machine that it comes out the best on. And sometimes it's machine A, and sometimes it's machine B.
That makes sense.
Does that though? Why is that happening? Is it the particular stitch? Like, say, one's better at satins and one's better at fills and registration, or what?
You'd have to ask him.
Oh, I will.
It's probably just a lot of little things that add up over time that just make a big impact in the end.
Just the movement of whatever.
Yeah, I know. Like machines will slow down in their Y direction versus their X direction much faster. And it's just the way that the pantograph is moving. And I think that, when you add in everything that goes on in an embroidery machine and they're all constructed completely differently, I think that those play into the final product. And ultimately, like maybe you have some backlash in your pantograph on machine A. and that benefits your file because it's like throwing extra pull comp in it. Or, I can add pull comp in my controller. Maybe they're able to do that on one machine and not necessarily the other one. So it really, it kind of comes down to all the individual things that a machine can do, which is, I hate to say it, but we're not going to ultimately say which machine you should get. We're going to say,
oh God,
you need to check with machine manufacturers. You need to look at what you want to do with it. And if you're on this live or you're in an embroidery group already asking questions and watching the responses that you're getting from other people, you're already in the right direction.
Right.
Because that's better than what I started with. I didn't even know about embroidery groups. I just went to people that I thought made embroidery. It turns out they didn't. And I said, what do I need? And, I get hit with trade secret a lot. And really it was because they didn't have a machine and they weren't manufacturing. They were outsourcing it. And so they didn't know. So they would just tell me trade secret rather than tell me I don't have a machine. I don't make my own stuff, because they wanted to appear like they did. And ultimately that, not having that kind of guidance kind of sent me down the rabbit hole of problems. I did have one guy that actually he had a machine, and his advice to me is your software should cost more than the machine. If it doesn't, you've probably got the wrong software.
Well, I don't know. When I got mine, my machine, I paid $18 for, and then the software, I'm going to have to, I'm curious about that, because it depends really, like, which is, this is a topic that I love that we're getting into, is the software, because it depends on, like, ultimately my machine was 18, and ultimately when all is said and done, my software was 20,000. I don't think I could spend 20,000 on embroidery software today, but maybe I could. I don't know. But back in the day, that's what I paid.
But back in the day, that's kind of what they all cost.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's probably true. That's probably true.
And your files cost more too coming out.
Oh, they did. They did. But what if you only got lettering and editing? Then you would have a lower cost. So how does that work in that formula of the software? I don't understand that equation at that point, because I don't want somebody to think that they have to now get really, and I'm just saying that
honestly, like, my advice is if you're buying a machine, don't buy software. That's literally my advice to anybody. Learn your machine, find out what your digitizer uses that you're paying to make you files. Then they're sending you native files. Decide, do I want to be able to do basic names and stuff? If you go out right from the get-go, like I did, I went out and I bought a full suite of software, and I had no idea what I was doing. I would run it on my machine, and I'd be sitting there in front of my machine trying to figure out, like, I thought there was something wrong with my machine. It was the file, because I generated the file. I thought it can't be the file because I made the file, so it's got to be the machine. And I know y'all are laughing at me, but you have no idea how many days I spent sitting in front of a machine almost in tears, because I just spent all this money and it's all going south. When I could have paid Justin or Louise or JJ, I could have paid them $25 and known this is a good file. And even then, like, if there's a problem with the file, I can go back to one of them. They all have access to a machine. They'll throw it on their machine. They'll sew it out and they'll say, look. Or like, and then I know it's not the file. It's me, right? Like, it's the machine. But without that gauge, it was tough. And I feel everyone should own software. But I'm not saying you need to buy software with your machine. I would definitely look at what you want to do. And once you kind of learn your machine, start with free trials of software and get kind of an idea of where it's all going. I know Jerry Lee disagrees with me. I could see it in her face.
So highly.
Okay. All right. Like, this is just me, and you know how much I spent on software.
I know.
Like, I just dumped and dumped and dumped, and had I not, I would have spent a lot less.
Right. And so in that case, where you went like way down the merry path, I'm going to agree. But in my case, I knew I didn't want to be a machine operator. I knew that the art was where it was at for me. So for me, I had to get it. Now, when I was in the Viking world, like when they said at Joanne Fabrics, you guys are going to love this. Oh yeah, you can get these in the Husqvarna Viking. You can get these. It's just as good as those Tajima thingies, those commercial machines. Don't buy that horse pucky. Okay. It's all a lie. Oh, and also I want to say, if somebody says it's just like a Tajima, it's not. That's just the gospel truth. The end.
That's like saying a Geo Metro is just like a Corvette. It just
Right.
gets there a little slower.
Not. It doesn't
It's
have
not the
the
same.
motor. It doesn't have anything like it. Some of them do have a Tajima head. There are some where there was a Toyota and a Tajima marriage and stuff like that. Okay. Long ago, they don't do that. Okay. So if they say it's like a Tajima, but it's not a Tajima. Okay. So anyway, the point is that these people told me that I could do this and compete with whoever, Tajima, ZSK, SWF, Faraday, whoever's out there, like Racoma, whoever it was. They said I could compete. They're full of crap. So when I got the software, that's when my life became brilliant. That's when I went to Goodwill and I bought everything I could find on the racks to stitch out these really bad designs. And then I started purchasing from OESD. What is it called? Oklahoma Embroidery.
They just call it OESD now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then, because it used to have a really long name. But anyway, so I started purchasing there and then Lee Caraselli. And after I was in the OESD thing, I started realizing that's when the light bulb went off because there was thousands of designs. And I thought, man, something's really good because I didn't know. Okay. I didn't know who's pooping these things out or how they got pooped out. You put them in, they come out. I don't know. Well, no, it's not. I figured it out because that ended up being my what I applied my trade for forever was as a digitizer. Well, in OESD, I found that I was going towards certain kinds of designs. And what I found is that the same person digitized those designs because when I'd go kind of down a different path, I'd get a different, I could read every digitizer has their mark, their tell, their signature. And so I could start telling the habits. So it was really interesting. But for me, I had to have the software. I would have never.
But see, Jerry Lee, you knew going into it that you were going into it for the art.
Yes.
Versus somebody going into it for production. A lot of people that come into it for production, they say, I'm going to buy this $2,000 software. It's going to save me $25 a design.
No, and it's not. You do need it for editing. Now we do all, I think, agree on this, that like at some point you need to be able to name drop and do those things that are really simple. Like that I shouldn't say simple, but the basic things that people are going to want you to do, like at whatever celebrations you celebrate, whatever it may be, or somebody's birthday or somebody's graduation or something, they're going to want you to drop a name on that, switch something out. But if you don't have the wherewithal to stand there or to sit at somewhere and be very focused on what you're doing to digitize, then really give it wide berth, or you could get out of the industry. For me, my end of that was the operator end. That wasn't good for me. Now some people are talented, seriously, I say it with all seriousness, and can do both of those things. I cannot. I can do one thing, and it's not being the machine operator. It's the designer.
I mean, I'm going to rip off I think it's a famous quote, but I'm going to rip it off completely. Okay. So somebody who frequents this, and we'll definitely be doing a couple shows tomorrow, usually says consume broadly and create with focus. And when it comes to purchasing, you want to consume broadly, consume all the materials you can, and purchase with focus. Because if you do that, you're going to end up saving yourself money in the long run. Don't just when you walk into a store, don't just think that the salesman is there to get you in the right machine for you. Head into it all with a little bit of skepticism, and make them earn the sale. I know there are probably machine manufacturers that or machine salesmen that are watching this. They're like, "Will you shut up, Jeff?" But send them a file, have them sew it out.
Okay, if that's what you mean.
Tell them what you want the machine to do. Don't just go in there and they'll say, "Well, you need this machine." And say, "Okay, here's my money."
Well, one thing you got to remember too is like that salesman at the machine manufacturer or distributor. Most of the time, a machine's going to have a software affiliated with what they're selling. So if you go to Tajima right now, they're going to try to sell you on Pulse.
They always will. That's the one associated.
Right. So it's not necessarily like if you buy this machine, you have to have this software. It's just that's what they're affiliated
Exactly.
with. That's what they support.
Yes.
It's not like
Sort
if
of.
you
Sometimes they don't. They just
that's
get the
true.
sale.
That's true.
But your point is
But
well taken. It's like it's like if that machine takes a DST, you need a software that does that. You don't need what like Tajima is married to Pulse. And you know what, Justin? I actually thought that. I thought if I ever changed machines, I was going to have to change softwares until somebody explained that. So the point is so good.
right. Yeah. So you don't have to necessarily get the software from the place that you're getting the machine.
Right.
But like Jeff said, I think the best thing to do is, in my opinion, is kind of establish yourself on the machine that you get. Find your digitizer that you want to use. It probably would be a good idea, especially if you like the digitizer and they work with you well. Find out what software they have, and hopefully that particular software is going to have some entry level editing and lettering version of it, where you could at least get the native files from them. You can learn from the digitizing a little bit easier using a native file and be able to use those name drops or the monograms or anything like that, so you're not paying for setups on simple lettering. But yeah, I mean, just as much as the machine and doing research on the machine and the tech and the support and everything else, you're going to want to do the same thing with the software you go with.
Right.
So once you find that digitizer, if they're using Wilcom, you're going to find out pretty fast that Wilcom's a huge name in the industry, and it's great support. It's a great software. So yeah, if they're using Wilcom, it would be a safe bet. If they're using some weird off the wall software, you may want to think twice about it if you research it and there's not much information out there about it and not much support to it. But you just got to remember, like Eric always says, you can produce the same file and the same digitized logo if that's what you're getting into on any software. It's just how you get there in the tools in that software.
I mean, ultimately, if there's only one YouTube channel out there with videos on how to use this software, you might want to look at a different software. It comes down to the education materials out there. If there's not much education material out there, that kind of speaks to the support of what's going on. Maybe it's just new and it doesn't have that network built up out there. But there's a lot of software videos out there, and you want to make sure that just like Justin said, you're like. Justin's been doing this 27 years. If I would have walked to Justin, I would have not made nearly as many mistakes. Or the same thing, if I'd have found Louise faster, I would have saved a lot of money, just because I would have had somebody that would have been in the industry long enough that would have recognized this guy doesn't know his thumb from his index finger. We need to point him in a better direction or give him better advice. And I didn't go down that road. I decided to go down that other road that didn't turn out too well for me because I just didn't know. And you want to make sure that you can get education on your software. Go ahead, Jerry Lee.
Well, I don't mean to jump in, but I have to say that your ability to digitize, Jeff, I think that part of that is because you didn't get instruction. You didn't have those boundaries put up. Those things weren't put here. And so you ran into every wall that you could find before you could find out what a limitation, exactly what that thing would do over there. So I think in some ways, even though it was like not a very fun experience, it was beneficial.
I mean, it was, but at the same time, had I been doing this for strictly profit reasons,
it wouldn't have been very fun at all. And
I don't know if I would have lasted as long as I did. I'd have probably quit and just went back to a different job, because every frustration, it really tests how dedicated you are actually being in this industry. And when you're coming to it with zero knowledge and zero experience
and zero help,
it can really knock you out of this industry very, very quick. And then it comes down to how persistent and how patient and how dedicated you are to actually making this work. And if you're doing this, you work a 9 to 5 already, and you really want to just get supplemental income and try to get this as your main business, I wouldn't go the same road I went, because nothing is more heartbreaking than spending $14,000 on a machine and another $8,000 on software and sitting there looking at your stuff not turning out and thinking, I spent so much money and I failed. You know, it really can break you if you don't have the money to spend. And if it's something that you go into and you say, I can't let it fail. You know, it really comes down to how persistent you're going to be. And I mean, we may be on the opposite sides of the fence on some of this stuff, but ultimately, you know, we want everybody that's out there listening. We want you to make sure that you go into this with a better idea of what you want to do and how you want to do it, and just hesitate before you pick which. Just hesitate a little. I'm not saying stop, but you know, just pause for a second before you sign the financing papers.
I ask questions. And also, speaking of financing, you have to one thing that was popular back when I had my machine was this like big stupid ridiculous freaking payment at the end. You know, this giant balloon payment like thing, or like this dollar thing that if you didn't pay they were going to snag your machine. I mean, it was
kind of like a lease, sort of.
Yeah, it was like, you're going to do this, and after all that, if you don't do this one little thing, we're taking it all away. And I thought, over my cold dead body, you will. All
Well,
right.
that's what I was going to bring up too, is your contract.
Yeah.
Read your whole contract,
Every
whether
word.
it's your machine or your software.
Yes.
I got screwed over on my machine, and if I would have read my contract completely, maybe a couple times when I wasn't drinking a few of these unsponsored products,
What was
it
that?
probably would not have signed that contract. And another thing, I know Jeff's seen it in one of the other embroidery groups. Someone complained about their financing for, I don't know if it was software or their machine, whatever, it doesn't matter. 0% financing for, what is this, 5 months or 5 years,
5
whatever.
years, yep.
They missed one payment, and all of that interest was charged to them. And they were like, what the hell? This isn't what it's 0%. And it's like, if you read the contract, you miss one payment, you owe that. Same with cars, whatever. So
Yep.
you have to read the contract.
Read it and know what you're doing. Don't ever sign anything unless you read it. You know, this can make or break you. Speaking of, I mean, Jeff was talking about that, you know, getting into a really bad machine and software situation. Here's the deal. If you don't look at what you're reading and you're going merrily along building something, and you make a mistake because the mistake was you didn't read your contract or whatever, you know, but don't get yourself derailed like that. You know, it takes a lot to get into business and to do that if you already have a 9 to 5 or whatever it is. Like, what I mean is a job. I don't mean a 9 to 5. Okay, I don't know anybody who really works that, but like a job outside of embroidery plus embroidery, you already are working your rear end off. You want to keep it. Do what you can to keep what you've earned, and don't let somebody else take it because you didn't take the time to read something and understand. If you don't understand it, go find somebody who can.
Yeah. I mean, I know, like, religiously, I will not miss a machine payment, because I know if I miss a machine payment, I'm going to get hit with all that accrued interest, and I don't want to get hit with that. So I pay like 10 days before my payment's due, and I make sure it's posted before the due date, because I am not going to miss that payment, because I know, you know, what is it, 20% interest roughly on the card on a $16,000 purchase. I know that's going to be like, it's going to break me. Like that would be the straw on the camel's back. So I know going into it, I am not going to miss that 0% financing payment period.
One thing that you all need to be very aware of, and again, I know this from being on in a very different realm of this industry. If you go in and pay cash for your machine, you're going to save a boatload. The whole deal is, and this is just how the world works, but for many, but the deal is that refinancing is actually very, very, very much desired because that little payment that you make all the time for like 6 months, 6 years, or whatever it is, that's where they're making their money.
And if it's 0%, it's likely that that financing is built into the price of the machine. I don't know very many institutions that give out 0%. Like,
How would they do that?
we love you, side hug.
Yeah, why would they do that? We love you. We don't want a profit. Come here, honey.
Yeah,
Why would
there's
they
some
do that?
catch in it. Like mine, I found out the hard way that like I didn't miss a single payment yet, thankfully.
Yet.
But every few months they take my current balance I owe, and so my machine I paid I think 16 grand for it. I now have I think just under 6 grand. My original balance or your maximum whatever your credit line, yeah, credit line. There you go. My credit line was like 16,500 or whatever, and then now it's 6,000. Every couple months they lower it to what my current balance is, which then it goes from 50% paid off to 100% credit usage. Which, if you know anything about credit scores, 100% on a card is kind of bad. So even though I am paying it off, didn't miss a single bill, I'm overpaying the minimum amount, which is also always recommended, unless if there's an early payment thing.
Yeah, you can watch for that to the early payment
Yeah.
gig. But
So-
why are they doing that, Matt? Is that actually legal?
It's in the contract.
That they can lower your credit?
Yep.
Yeah, just like some cards, they actually. I have one credit card that it's in the contract that every 6 months they can reevaluate and up my credit limit for me.
Yep. And that happened. I had another card too, exactly like that. And I was buying this house and trying to get first time homeowners interest,
Stuff.
would have reduced it by like 2%. That card did a hard inquiry to check my credit score. And I was like, oh, we can give you more money. And because of that, it put me one over the maximum amount of credit checks to apply for that. So I lost that. Again, that's in the contract, but
That's wrong.
whatever.
I know we're all kind of like at the mercy of, but so is there any questions about? I mean, we've been pretty putting some stuff out there. Has anybody got? I mean, I see some.
There is this comment that I saw that none of us ever like answering. What is the panel's opinion on their machine brand preference?
Well, we can't really do that.
So I'll jump on this hand grenade. Justin runs Tajima's at his shop. I have a Happy. Matt has a Ricoma and a Happy and another one. And I can see Letty's got a ZSK.
I had a Tajima when I had one, and now I have some different preferences, and I'll name those, and that's going to be ZSK, Happy, and Veridian.
Here's how I was going to handle it. So I want to be able to take this here, plus a little bit of thread, get this, along with some money. If the machine is capable of doing that without me having to put more money into keeping the machine running,
you're killing me, Dad.
It's a Happy machine.
Well,
And I don't mean the brand Happy. I just mean
yeah.
I'm
going to say, guys, that you don't always need a commercial machine, because there are some people that do embroidery for what they need to do. It's on a tabletop machine. And you know what? There is nothing wrong with that. You have to determine, what do you need for what you want to produce? How much are you willing to spend to get that? Know your margins, know your business, know your audience, and know your space. I mean, and then come up with a machine that works for that. Because I think any one of us will tell you, you can make a machine embroidered. It's what do you need to get what you want out of it.
Absolutely.
I vote for everything Letty just said, times 10.
Like Mary, yeah. Mary Easley actually sells this. I'm sure I'm going to hack it, but it's and maybe y'all can help me. But Hallelujah, I don't know. But she's the U.S. distributor, and she sells those things like hotcakes, and she does beautiful, beautiful work. I've never seen it, but I. So the machines that I refer to, I need to really clarify why I said the machines I do. You need to understand what my filter is. I was married to an embroidery machine technician for 19 years. That's why my filter is the filter that it is because I saw like there was ones that he wouldn't even work on, but
I mean, you saw all the problems.
I did. And here's the thing is that it was user, it was like all sorts of things. I mean, like what if you don't like one time this lady held up her phone and the sound coming out of there was like god awful. Okay. Get this one. She had a 6-head machine. She didn't oil the hook in 2 years. Running them all day long, didn't oil the hook in 2 years. How did she not seize that machine? God will never know. But
Well, I mean,
oh,
my first tubular machine, I called technical support, and I was asking to
Remember that.
clarify an oiling point on the machine because I couldn't really see it in the video. And she goes, and the support department, the individual in the support department told me, "Oh, you don't need to oil it. It's fine."
how'd that go?
I talked to a supervisor,
I remember you telling me that. Yeah, that was.
and I got a very thorough video call. This is where this is where you need to oil it. This is how you need to oil it. And there were even extra places that he's like, this would be beneficial if you oil it. But that initial person, had I just believed that person, my machine would have been a giant paperweight very, very quickly.
Used a bearing right
And
then
that could
there.
avoid your warranty as well for you not servicing your machine according to your contract. Which again,
That's
read your contract.
That's
Even
right.
though yeah,
You got to
I
watch.
won't go there.
Like ask and like you have to make sure that with the servicing. Let's go there. Don't void your warranty by having a non-warranty tech come in, or you take the needle case off or something, or the head off. Don't do that. Don't do that. You'll void your warranty right then and there. A non-authorized technician on that machine, on a warranted machine, or you, which is the same thing.
I mean, I can honestly tell you, I've called my machine manufacturer more than once and said, "Would you void my warranty if?"
What was the answer often? Yes or no?
No.
Oh,
We
good.
won't void your warranty if you do that. Try it and let us know how it goes. That's been the majority of my responses.
I think your situations have been slightly different than
Yeah, our
mine.
situations are very, yeah. So
And that's why it's fun because we each have such a unique experience. Like Letty's experience is different than mine. Matt's is different than Letty's. Justin's different than all of ours, and Jerry Lee, your experience is different as well. And I think it really goes to show you that it comes down to what you need the machine to do
Mhm.
and how you want to approach getting it.
And
Go
there's
ahead,
also
Letty.
delivery.
No, it truly comes down to that. You have to determine what you want and what you need it to do. And sometimes it's a tabletop machine. Sometimes it's something from Joanne. Sometimes
Explain what a tabletop machine is for everybody, Letty, would you?
Do what?
Clarify, please. Like, not everybody might not understand tabletop.
Oh, a tabletop. Literally, it looks like a little sewing machine, only it does embroidery. So you can
Is it a
walk into like
flatbed?
a Joann's or someone else or a brother or whatever, and it
Mhm.
fits on your tabletop. And for years, I embroidered names on pillowcases, and that's all I need was a small hoop, and that's what I needed. My husband decided I needed something bigger and went and bought the Viking 10 needle that's over there that's still in the corner. Um, that worked out so well that now we have the one behind us. So
Wow.
it just. But I wanted sequins. I wanted to be able to do beads. I wanted to be able to do sequins, and I wanted to plug and play. So that took me in a different direction. Would I have bought the machine I did if I didn't need that? Maybe not. You know, I've seen lots of other machines that work just as nice as what I do. There really isn't a preference.
I mean, the more, and to expand on that, the more focused you know of what you need the machine to do, what you want the machine to do, what you're going to use the machine for, the more focused you are on it, the better it's all going to go. If you buy a machine and you're like, well, I just want to do patches, and then 2-3 weeks after you have the machine, you're like, well, I want to do a hat, and you can't. If you know already, I want to make patches and a hat, you already know there's 2 criteria I need to meet. So like Letty said, I want to do sequins. So that right there is going to change what machine she's looking at based on whether or not they can take a sequin attachment.
And that's if you get into groups and you say, I wish I could put my hands on this machine, and somebody says, I have that, and they're within an hour or 2 hours from you, go there. Go and try and check out that machine, put your hands on it, run a file, see how everything loads up, and see if you like it. I mean, truly, play with the machines if you have that opportunity. If you can go to a show and see them in production, go see them.
Why go to the shows?
Yeah, absolutely. Well worth your money.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, honestly, like when somebody comes, like we have groups, right? Or not groups. We have questions to get in the group, and I always look at the profiles, and it tells us where they're from. And when I see somebody that's from Iowa and they're within a 50-mile radius, I get really, really excited, because I don't know about you guys, but if somebody contacted me and said, hey, Jeff, I want to come over and see your machine run, I'd be like, what time?
Yeah.
Let's do this. I'm excited. I want to talk embroidery with embroidery people. Come on over.
And I know you will.
And like Matt came to my house once. So, it's really, really exciting to be a part of a bigger community. And when somebody new is coming in and they say, hey, I want to see your machine, or, hey, what do you do? It's kind of exciting, because I don't know, it's just fun to have another person to do it with. And if they're within driving distance, then that's somebody I get to meet and see their, like, not only are they going to see my shop, I get to go see their shop, hopefully.
True that. And you can learn, because what one knows, the other might not. And then it seems like there's that synergy that happens. Like you start sparking and things just start booming. I just love it myself. I think we're in bonus time, though.
I mean, I can definitely tell you that my creativity goes up when I surround myself with creative people.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to say, too, is if you don't know of anyone, or there's a shop like down the road from you that does embroidery, and you're like, well, I don't really want to approach them because we're kind of competitors, you might not know that, because like there's another person in the nerd group. He has a shop right down the road from me, does screen printing and embroidery. Obviously, I do embroidery, so that would be kind of a conflict right there. It's not. He doesn't do patches, and I don't do anything but patches. So he had a couple patch orders, sent them to me, and I had a couple shirt orders, sent them to him. And then there was a time where I needed orange thread really, really badly, and my orange thread wouldn't come in until another 2 months later. I'm like, hey, man, can I borrow 6 spools of Isocord orange? And he was like, yeah, sure, come on over. Borrowed it, returned it a day or 2 later. My customer was happy. I was happy. He was happy.
Not to mention, if you're starting off with just like a single head or a smaller machine, and that established business that's up the road, it's got an 8-head or a couple of multi-head machines, you sub the larger jobs out to them when you can't handle, the volume or the turnaround time or something like that, and you learn from them. So yeah, it's always nice to hook up with local shops and don't treat them, and hopefully they don't treat you like just competitors.
It's a family. Embroidery is a very big, small family.
All right, but I want to run through the comments here. We are an hour and 10 minutes, so I want to run through the comments, and we're going to grab some questions. We're going to rapid fire answer them here.
Let's go.
I have to go up a little bit. Actually, I'm just going to start going up from the bottom.
Okay.
So Teresa asks, are Mighty Hoops necessary? I will answer that with no, they are not, but they will make your life a lot easier.
Unless you're on a Carhartt or something, or a horse blanket, then I'm going to say yes.
Yep. That's what I would go. And the Goblin Haberdasher, like that name, says, is there much of a difference between thread brands aside from price? Yes, there is. Some brands will dye their mist tints black. where some brands won't do that, so they'll just single dye. There's also 2-strand wound and 3-strand wound. The Tubular versus the other one. There's rayon, polyneon, mylar wrap. So there are differences between thread brands aside from price. Go ahead, Jerry Lee.
One little thing about that is the reason that the dyeing again is very important is because the more you process thread, it wears it out, it breaks. So if it's continually dyed, like when they say they dye something for a big wedding or an event and it was wrong and it's maroon something, they can never use it for anything. They dye it all black. Okay, whatever is what Jeff's saying. So it's multi-processed, which means it's multi-weekend. So that's the point of why you don't really want that.
And I think that's all of the questions, hopefully. There's a lot of statements. So if you guys are watching, I'd highly recommend reading through the comments because there's a lot of really good stuff in there. I know coming up, we're going to have Majir on an interview, right, Jerry Lee?
Yeah, I'm working on that. And I've also talked to, do you want me to name names?
I mean, you can say the companies. I'm good with that.
G is the other one. I also want to get Twiga, and I'd also like to get So Simple over in Australia. And so there's some companies that, and of course TexMac, we want to talk to those guys for reals and for sure. So we've got some people, like the show was really good, and I just want to, like, I think that part of what we can do here is pepper people with the questions. Ask them, is there something that you want to know from these companies? Let's go get those people. If you want to know something, go ask that person or that company. So let's go get those people and, like, what do they have that we don't know about? What do they know that we don't? What do they want? What can we tell them that we want and we can get? You know, I mean, like, let's just really do it. So those are the ones I'm trying to line up. They're all machine manufacturers is where I'm at right now.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and final thoughts. Keep it to like 2 sentences. Go ahead, Justin.
One thing I wanted to mention I forgot about was difference between new and used. There is one little middle ground. You could always talk to manufacturers, and they sometimes have a floor model or a demo that they will sell and they will warranty. So that's one question you could always ask to get something a little bit cheaper.
Or refurbish. Some companies do that. All right, Jerry Lee, last statements.
Look at the resale value of whatever you're buying. Find out what you can sell it for if you needed to. If you can't sell it for much, that ought to sell you something.
Yep. Yeah, I'm going to go in with focus on your business plan, what you want to use for it, use it for, and do a lot of research to make sure that you are making a very informed decision. Ask questions, and even if you just have to ask them on Facebook, you know, it never hurts to get one more opinion on something. So, Letty, you're up.
I'm going to say, if you can, put your hands on it and try it out. And then coming back on Justin, I would also say, look to see if they have someone who traded one to upgrade. Because a lot of people, and especially these companies, have same controllers that will upgrade as well. So make sure that your machine is upgradable.
Yes.
Or if they have something that said they traded in that you can actually pick up and upgrade yourself.
Yep.
All right, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, like my main comment I said is read it, do your research on what you're signing, because you never know until it's too late.
All right. So,
thank you guys so much.
That's been a lot of fun. That is all the way over there. Justin from JA Digitizing Studios. We have Jerry Lee from Sunfacer Manufacturing Co. We have Letty Walker from Walker Woods Creation. I hope I got that right. Yep, I got it right. We have Matt Enderly from Patch Phrase, and I'm Jeff Fuller, and we are here with the Embroidery Nerd. Matt says join the Discord channel, but we'd like to thank you guys for your time and hanging out with us.